Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome back to my class. In today's class, we are going to study about the flower, which is a continuation of the chapter 5, Morphology of Flowering Plants. As you all aware that a flower is the reproductive unit in the plant, that is in the angiosperms, which is meant for sexual reproduction. So in detail, we'll study about the parts of different flowers. First, let us see about from the base, that is from the stalk of the flower, which we call it as pedicel. Stalk of the flower, we are calling it as pedicel. Okay, in previous classes we have seen that the stalk of the leaf we are called it as petiole, and stalk of inflorescence we are calling it as peduncle. But the stalk of the flower we are calling it as pedicel. Like if the pedicel is present, that means if the stalk is present on the flower, then we call that type of flower as the pedicellate flower. If the pedicel is present on the flower, then we call that type of flower as pedicellate flower. So if the stalk or the pedicel is present on the flower, then we call that type of flower as pedicellate flower. And if the stalk or the pedicel is absent in the flower, then we call that type of flower as sessile. Sessile flowers. Absence of pedicel, we call that type of flower as sessile flowers. Now this was the basic. Just above the pedicel, we can see that there is a swollen end. This swollen end or the base, we call that as thalamus. Swollen end of the stalk, we are calling it as this one as thalamus. The swollen end or of the stalk or the pedicel, we call that as thalamus, or the other name for the thalamus is receptacle. So this is the stalk of the flower, and the base, that is the swollen end of the pedicel, we are calling it as thalamus. And beside the thalamus, you can see the whorl. Now coming to the whorls, so basically if you see, the flower has four whorls. Four whorls. Now let us see what are those four whorls. Out of this, the first one here, you can see this green color part. This is what we are calling it as calyx. This is the first whorl in the flower. This is the first whorl in the flower, which is arranged or like green, small, thin, outermost, which is the protective, and also ring like arranged on the thalamus. Right? Let us see the points here, which is the outermost. When they are outermost, they are protecting the flower. They are protective and they are green in color. So when they are green in color, they are photosynthetic. They are photosynthetic. That means they are performing the function that is the photosynthesis function. That is, the calyx is the first whorl, which is the outermost and also protects the flower and also green in color. And because of that green color, it is performing the function that is photosynthetic function or photosynthesis, carrying out the photosynthesis. And it is represented by the symbol K. Represented by the symbol K, and units of the calyx are sepals. Units of the calyx are sepals. Single unit of calyx, we call it as sepals. This was the first whorl. Now let us come to the second whorl. This is the second whorl. We call it as corolla. This is the second whorl, which we are calling it as corolla, represented by the symbol C. Okay, and the units are petals, and the units are petals of corolla, which is very brightly colored. You can see that I have drawn the flower with the red color, which is bright colored. Let's write the points here. Brightly colored, fragrant. Because of that, okay, fragrance, it will attract the pollinators, and hence it will carry out the pollination process. Right? I hope it is clear. So second whorl, this is the second whorl, which is represented by the symbol C, and the units of corolla are petals, which is brightly colored, fragrant, and also will attract the pollinators. Right? And these two So first of all is the calyx and corolla. Both these are the non-essential whorls out of all the four whorls because they are not directly involved in the sexual reproduction. Now let us see the third whorl. In this case, the third whorl is nothing but the androecium. The third whorl is the androecium, which wherein andro means male and ecium means home. That means it is to say that it is the home of male organs. Now the units of androeciums are, so what is it represented? As we are representing calyx with K, corolla with C, and androecium is represented by the symbol A. And the units are stamens. Okay, the units of androecium are stamens, where the stamens consist of together. This is the tip and the filament, anther and filament. Okay, this is the filament and this is the anther. Anther and filament together will form the stamens, which are nothing but are a part of the male reproductive structure, that is androecium. Anther is the tip joined with the filament in case of stamens. This is the third whorl, right? Coming on to the fourth whorl, that is gynoecium. The fourth whorl is the gynoecium, which has the three parts. First one is the stigma. Second one is the style. And third one is the ovary. Now these three together we form the gynoecium. These three together will form the gynoecium, which is the fourth whorl, which is the innermost fourth and forms the three major parts. The tip of the gynoecium, that is called as stigma, and the long tube-like structure we are calling it as style, and the basal swollen part we are calling it as ovary, which is the fourth whorl, innermost, and here represented by the symbol G. Okay, and the units of gynoecium we call it as carpels or pistils. Carpels or pistils. So here in case of when the flower is consisting of gynoecium, then we call that kind of flower as the pistillate flower. Okay, pistillate flower. Gynoecium also we can divide and we can understand the word here. Gyno means female, ecium means home. So that means ecium means home. It is a home for the female reproductive parts. And here ovary, if you see the ovary here, ovary is the basal part of the gynoecium and it is the swollen part. Inside the ovary, you can see that there is a stalk-like structure which is arranged with the swollen part here. Now this swollen part and the stalk-like structure, let us see what are those. This is the ovary wall. Together I have told that this is the ovary and this is the ovary wall. Inside the chamber which is present here, we call it as locule. This is locule, the chamber in which the ovule is present. We are calling it as locule. And here, the bulbous structure which is present here, we are calling it as ovule. Now let us show me clearly. One second, please. Locule. This is ovule. And the ovule is connected with the stalk-like structure here to the thalamus. We are calling it as funicle. We are calling it as funicle. And the outermost part together we call it as ovary wall, or in short we can also call it as ovary. And hence the gynoecium consists of three parts: stigma, which will attract the pollinators, from where the pollen grains enters and then hence will attach to the ovule. So this is what is gynoecium. So together the basal part we call it as ovary. This is the ovary wall. The chamber inside which ovule is present is called locule, and this part we are calling it as ovule, and the stalk to which the ovule is connected to the thalamus we are calling it as funicle. Hence we finish off with this one, right? And in general, if we see the points here for the flowers, if both the androecium and gynoecium are present in one flower, then those kind of flowers we call it as bisexual flowers, and we represent that flowers with the symbol. This is bisexual flower. Okay, and if only one gynoecium, one androecium or gynoecium, if only one reproductive part is present in case of flower, that type of flower we call it as unisexual flowers, represented by this female and also represented by this male unisexual flowers. Okay. If all the four whorls are present in one flower, then that type of flower we are calling it as complete flower. If any whorl is missing, that is, or absent, then we call that type of flower as incomplete flower. Class is clear. Inshallah, in the next class, we'll talk about the divisions on the basis of number of units of flower divisions, and also the division of flowers on the basis of the symmetry and also on the position of ovary. Thank you.